My name is Martha Sterling, and I am 66 years old. I never thought I would be the kind of woman who would have to investigate her own children. I was just a mother, a wife, a woman who loved baking blueberry pies on Sundays and tending to her rose garden. But life has a cruel way of tearing off your blindfold when you least expect it. What I'm about to tell you changed my life forever. The funeral for my husband, Robert, was the quietest, heaviest day of my existence. It was a Tuesday in November, and the sky was a bruised shade of purple and gray. A relentless, freezing drizzle fell over the cemetery, soaking through my black wool coat and chilling me to the bone. Standing there, beside the open grave that looked like a hungry mouth, waiting to swallow the only man I ever loved, I felt truly alone. Then it happened. My phone vibrated against my hip inside my black clutch. Once, twice. A persistent buzzing that felt loud in the silence of the ceremony. I tried to ignore it. Who would be texting a widow at her husband's funeral? But the vibration didn't stop. With trembling hands, I opened the clasp of my bag and pulled out the screen. The message was from Hubby. My breath caught in my throat. The world tilted on its axis. Robert was in that box. I had seen him at the morgue. I had kissed his cold forehead. I unlocked the phone, my fingers slipping on the wet screen. The message read, "Run. The killer is standing next to you." I didn't scream. I couldn't. The shock paralyzed my vocal cords. I typed back, "Who is this?" The reply came instantly. "It's Robert. I'm not dead, but I will be if you don't leave. The man holding the umbrella next to you poisoned me." I slowly lifted my head. The rain was falling harder now. Standing to my right, holding a large black umbrella over my head to protect me from the storm, was my eldest son, Richard. He was wearing a tailored Italian suit, his face a mask of solemn grief. He looked down at me, his eyes red. "Are you okay, Mom?" he whispered, placing a hand on my shoulder. His hand felt heavy, like lead, like a shackle. "I'm fine," I lied. My voice sounded thin, like dragging a needle across a record. Standing to my left was my youngest, Daniel. He was checking his watch discreetly, hiding it behind his sleeve. He caught my eye and forced a sad smile. "It's almost over, Mom," Daniel said. That moment tore my soul in two. My world crumbled. These were the boys I had raised. The boys I had nursed through fevers, taught to ride bicycles, and cheered for at graduation. And now, a text message from the grave was telling me they were monsters. To understand why this betrayal broke me, you have to understand where we came from. I met Robert 42 years ago in the small town of Oak Creek. We grew up on the same dusty back roads, sharing modest dreams and hand-me-down clothes. I cleaned houses to support my sick mother, while Robert repaired bicycles in a small, greasy shop he inherited from his father. We were poor, dirt poor, but we were happy. We had something money couldn't buy. We had real love. I remember the first time he spoke to me. It was a Tuesday morning, just like the day of his funeral. I was walking toward the market in my faded green dress. He stepped out of his shop, wiping grease from his hands with a rag, and smiled at me. It was a shy smile, crooked and warm. "Good morning, Martha," he said. "Need me to check the tires on your bike?" I didn't even own a bike, but I lied and said yes, just to talk to him. That conversation turned into dates under the big old oak tree in the town square, then into promises of eternal love, and finally into a simple wedding full of hope. We built our empire slowly. Robert turned that bicycle shop into Sterling Motors, the biggest auto repair chain in the state. I became a school principal. We moved from a leaky 2-bedroom house to a sprawling estate on the hill. When Richard was born, I thought my heart would burst. He was a beautiful baby with his father's determined chin. 2 years later, Daniel arrived. We gave them everything: the best private schools, trips to Europe, cars on their 16th birthdays. We thought we were giving them a good life. We didn't realize we were poisoning them with entitlement. As they grew up, things started to change. Richard became an investment banker. He became obsessed with status. He stopped coming home for Christmas because he was too busy closing deals. Daniel followed him, becoming a real estate developer who cared more about property values than family values. "Mom," Richard said to me during one of their rare visits last year, "you and Dad should sell this big house, move into a condo, use the money to invest." "This is our home, Richard," I had said. "It's an asset, Mom, and right now it's a wasting asset," he replied coldly. I should have seen the signs then. They looked at us and saw dollar signs, not parents. 3 weeks ago, Robert died. The E-die official story was a heart attack at the shop. Richard found him. Richard called the ambulance. Richard handled everything. "He didn't suffer, Mom," Richard had told me, hugging me stiffly at the hospital. "It was quick." But Robert had been healthy. He walked 5 miles a day. He ate oatmeal for breakfast. His heart was strong. Now, standing at the grave, reading the text, the pieces started to fit together. "I can't say more," the next text read. "Go to my office, look in the safe. The code is the day we met." I felt a wave of nausea. "Mom?" Richard asked again, his grip on my shoulder tightening. "You look pale." I need to go to the bathroom," I stammered. "I left my medication in the car." "I'll come with you," Daniel said immediately. "No," I snapped. Then I softened my voice. "No, honey, I just need a moment alone, please. Let me grieve." They exchanged a look I now recognized as calculation. But they let me go. I walked back to the limousine, but I didn't get in. I kept walking. I walked out of the cemetery gates, kicked off my high heels, and ran. I ran until my lungs burned. I hailed a taxi on the main road and gave the driver the address of Robert's private office downtown. The office was dusty. It smelled of Robert, old leather, peppermint mints, and engine oil. I fell into his chair and wept for a moment, inhaling his scent. But I didn't have time for tears. I went to the wall, safe behind the painting of our first shop. The day we met, August 12th, 0812. The safe beeped and clicked open. Inside, there was no money. There was a stack of papers and a digital voice recorder. I pressed play. Robert's voice filled the room. It sounded tired, scared. "Martha, my love, if you are listening to this, I am gone, and I am sorry I couldn't protect you." I sobbed, clutching the recorder to my chest. "I've suspected the boys for months," Robert's voice continued. "Richard has gambling debts, huge ones. He owes money to bad people. And Daniel is being investigated for fraud. They need money, Martha. They need it fast." The recording paused, as if he was catching his breath. "They asked me to sign over the business last week. I refused. Then yesterday, Richard brought me coffee. It tasted bitter. I didn't drink it all. I sent a sample to a private lab. It was laced with digitalis. It causes heart failure." Digitalis, a poison that mimics a heart attack. I hired a private investigator, Stephen Vance. He has all the proof. He has videos of the meeting. He helped me fake my death. The body in the casket? It's a John Doe from the morgue. I bribed the coroner. I had to, Martha. It was the only way to save us both. If I had stayed alive, they would have killed me, and then they would have killed you for the insurance. My husband was alive. He had faked his death to catch our sons. The text message buzzed again. Go to Stephen Vance, 42 Maple Street. He is waiting for you. Do not go home. Richard and Daniel are planning to have you declared mentally incompetent tomorrow so they can seize the estate. I drove to the investigator's house. Stephen Vance was a stern man with kind eyes. He made me tea while I shook in his living room. Robert is safe, Stephen said. He is in a safe house 2 towns over, but we needed you to be safe too. Why didn't he tell me? I cried. Because your reaction at the funeral had to be real, Stephen said gently. Your sons are watching you closely. If you hadn't looked truly devastated, they might have suspected something. Stephen showed me the surveillance footage. I watched a video on his laptop. It was taken inside my own kitchen 2 days ago. Richard and Daniel were sitting at my table drinking my coffee. How long until the insurance pays out? Daniel asked on the video. 30 days, Richard replied. But we need control of Mom's accounts sooner. We need to push the dementia narrative. Dr. Albright is ready to sign the papers saying she's senile. What if she fights it? She won't, Richard laughed. It was a cold, cruel sound. She's weak. She's broken without Dad. We'll put her in the Shady Pines facility. They have a strict no visitors policy. She'll rot there and we'll have the empire. I watched my sons plotting to lock me away. The love I had held for them for 40 years turned into ash in my mouth. What do we do? I asked Stephen. We end it, he said. The next morning, I called my sons. I told them I was ready to talk about the will. I told them to come to the main house. They arrived promptly at 10 a.m. They brought a lawyer I didn't recognize and a stack of papers. Mom, Richard said, smiling that fake, shark-like smile, we're so glad you're being reasonable. These papers are just to help you manage the estate. It's a lot of responsibility for a woman your age. I understand, I said. I was sitting in Robert's favorite armchair. But before I sign, I have a surprise. A surprise? Daniel looked nervous. Yes, your father isn't dead. The room went silent. You could hear a pin drop. Mom, Richard said, his voice dripping with condescension. We know you're grieving. This is the dementia talking. Dad is dead. We buried him. Did you? I pressed a button on the remote control. The curtains to the dining room slid open. Robert walked out. He looked pale and thinner, but he was alive. He was holding a file in his hand. Richard and Daniel looked like they had seen a ghost. Richard actually fell back onto the sofa. Daniel started hyperventilating. Dad? Richard whispered. But the heart attack. The digitalis, you mean, Robert said. His voice was hard as steel. You didn't use enough, son. This is a trick, Daniel screamed. No, Robert said. This is the end. Robert threw the file onto the coffee table. Photos of Richard buying the poison, bank records of Daniel's fraud, the recordings of them plotting to commit me to an asylum. The police are outside, I said. Sirens began to wail in the distance. Richard looked at me. Mom, please. It was just, we were desperate. We can fix this. You tried to kill your father, I said, standing up. You planned to lock me in a cage. You are not my sons. You are strangers. When the police led them away in handcuffs, Richard didn't look at me, but Daniel did. He was crying. Mom, help me, he wailed. I turned my back. It has been 6 months. Richard and Daniel are in prison awaiting trial. The charges are attempted murder, fraud, and conspiracy. The town was shocked. The Sterling boys? No way, people said. But the evidence doesn't lie. Robert and I live in the big house alone now. It's quiet, sometimes too quiet. We sold the business. We donated the money we had saved for their inheritance to a charity for elder abuse victims. Every Sunday, we still bake a blueberry pie. We sit on the porch and hold hands. We lost our children, but we found each other again. Sometimes I wake up at night terrified that I'm back, at the funeral, standing in the rain. But then I feel Robert's warm hand in mine, and I know I'm safe. I learned a hard lesson that day in the cemetery. Blood makes you related, but loyalty makes you family. And sometimes, the most dangerous people in the world are the ones sitting at your dinner table. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe, and tell me in the comments, would you be able to forgive your children if they did this to you? I read every comment. See you in the next story.